What's going on, everybody? Jared Sandler here with you, broadcasting from inside the press box here at Globe Life Field, inside the broadcast booth. Typically, the booth would include Eric and Matt, but they've got us all spread out. So I've got this area all to myself. Going to do a little game preview, and also would love to answer your questions with a little Q&A as well. So feel free to throw your questions my way in the chat, and I will be very happy to answer them. So Rangers Diamondbacks tonight. Let's start with, I guess, the basics. First of all, start time. Why are the Rangers and the Diamondbacks playing a game in Arlington, not on a Saturday where the Fox TV restriction window is forcing them to 8? Why is this game at 8? Well, with all the games that are going to be played between the Rangers and West Coast, the games, that's not a lot, for the West Coast teams and the Rangers and the Astros, and the fact there are no fans, start time doesn't matter as much. So this is a way to eliminate the 9 o'clock start times for the Rangers and Astros when they play basically anyone else other than themselves. And it's a way for the West Coast teams to avoid those 5 o'clock start times on their end when they play the Rangers and Astros here in the state of Texas. So the compromise was we'll play 8 o'clock games here locally, but in both cases. So in both cases, they'll start at 6 o'clock in the Pacific time zone, 8 o'clock here, Central time zone. So that's why we are starting at this time. And it's going to be more common that the Rangers play a home game this time than at the normal 7 o'clock time when all is said and done. Braden, great question. Minus 110. I saw it earlier at minus 102, so that's good news. That means the money's moving in their favor. I do like it. The Diamondbacks and the Rangers are not drastically different. I don't think that one team's going to finish 5 or so games better than the other, but I do think the Rangers are a better team. What both teams have in common is that they're not really scoring runs, at least not as much as they should. If you look at the Diamondbacks, they dropped 3 of 4 to the Padres. They scored 2, 1, 4, and 2. That's not very good. Now, their lineup is not the most intimidating lineup. You look at Starling Marte, he's not the typical number 3 hitter with lots of power, but they do seem to have a lineup with ability, maybe more balanced. And so definitely expect the Diamondbacks to eventually come into their own offensively, hopefully not tonight. Pete, that's a good question. I don't think the Marlins need to intentionally have half their team get infected to get a better draft pick. I think that their roster in and of itself is probably positioned well to do that. The reality is this, it's irresponsible, and I don't know everything that went on. Obviously, I've read what's been reported, but here's the thing, or some things to think about. The first, second, third, fourth, fifth priority is health. Whatever, 1 through 100. The priorities are health. However, there is stuff beyond that that's a part of this. If there are a lot of people, whether it's players, staffers, people who that dedicate their time for these players and coach them, who they kind of need the money. It's not like they're going to be homeless without it, but they're not $30 million a year guys and gals. And listen, I'll raise my hand. If the season gets canceled tomorrow, I probably get furloughed, and that stinks. So, but forget my personal situation. There are a lot of people who they need the season to happen, but obviously it's not going to happen if it's, too much of a risk. And we can get into whether or not they should be playing, to begin with. That's a separate conversation. But, they put together this plan. They did what they felt was best combined with what both sides agreed to do. And, it's just, for a team to grossly ignore, misreport, whatever the case might be, is, that's irresponsible. And it's really unfortunate. It puts the season in jeopardy. Sexy Beast, do I think the Rangers should trade Chu this season? If they're out of it, yeah, I just don't know what the value is, because you're only, a few things. Chu's value is up because everybody has a DH now. That helps him. However, with 16 playoff teams, 8 per league, you need to create that separation in the market between hard sellers, hard buyers. That's what creates the market. That's what allows teams to realize the value when they want to sell. I just have no idea what that market is going to look like. I'm not saying it won't exist. I just don't know. I mean, we've never seen something like this. Not only are there going to be more teams that are in contention and less teams who aren't, but you've also got just 1 month of possible service. And I don't know that that's going to kill deals, but I do think that if you're going to give up what I would want as fair value for Chu, it's going to be different when you only get him for 1 month guaranteed versus 2. So it would make sense for this year to be that year. I'm also hopeful the Rangers are in contention and, that particular move wouldn't make sense. But I definitely think it's worth entertaining those offers. Agent Hawk, yes, I think the Rangers will score more than 3 tonight. I'm banking. Yeah, that's a guarantee. That is a Jared Sandler guarantee. Kevin's kind of asking a similar question. I certainly hope so. I mean, in all honesty, when discussing the lineup, I think it's fair to at least bring up the possibility that a lot of these guys who we believe have lots of potential maybe don't have as much as we'd hope, or this is not the year they're going to realize it. A guy like Nick Solak, I think a lot of people are really excited about what he can bring, and I'm one of them. But what if he's good but not as good this year as we were hoping? Willie Calhoun, what if he's good but not as good? I guess my point is there are a lot of question marks, and again, you've heard me probably say this, but thinking of the Rockies, I don't know how good the Rockies are as a team, but when you look at their lineup, you know what you can count on from Charlie Blackmon, Trevor Story, Nolan Arenado. These guys have been highly productive for multiple years. Who on the Rangers has been highly productive for multiple years? Chu's been productive, definitely not at the level of Blackmon, Story, Arenado, not anywhere close. But he's been productive. He's also 38. Joey Gallo's been really productive, not at the level of those guys for several years on end. Last year, his production was of that level. But again, it's not like he's shown for 3 straight years that that's the guy he is. Willie Calhoun, Nick Solak, we're all pumped about their futures at the plate as hitters. But again, it's not like you've got years and years of track record to fall back on. So I still think there's a lot of question, a lot of gray area for this lineup. And, I think that the guys who I'm relying on, Solak, Calhoun, and Rugi, those are the guys who I think, they step up. This lineup can be a good lineup. Aaron, are the Rangers in the market for a pitcher? Maybe not like high level, no. I don't think they're going to give up a lot to get a pitcher. A guy like Mike Fultonevich became available for the Braves. This is a guy who, he was bad in his first start. And he was really bad last year, but a guy who's got a good track record. It's not like he's a big money guy. Could the Rangers consider Mike Fultonevich, a guy who, I think was signed for $6 million this year, so prorated, we're looking at like $2 million-ish, possibly. But do you want to take an opportunity away from Colby Allard? Obviously the additions of Jordan Lyles and Kyle Gibson and Corey Kluber justify that. What about Mike Fultonevich? What about a guy who, forget his one start this year, a guy who last year posted a 4.50 ERA and was awful for a chunk of the season. A guy who the year before that was really good. So that's the ammunition to get him. Maybe, that's the type of move I think they'd make, as opposed to going out and being a buyer for a big name pitcher. Pete. Yes, he did have great stuff for that one inning. Aaron, Rufus shut here. I'll let you guys see. Pete, listen, obviously Justin Verlander hurt. Clayton Kershaw, it seems like he'll be back, but had the back thing. Steven Strasburg missed the start. Shohei Ohtani was brutal. I don't know. It's tough to truly know the impacts of this spring. What I'll tell you is watching Corey Kluber in the spring, in the summer before the season, he looked great. I mean, he looked mid-season form. Rangers hitters were saying, we don't want to face this guy anymore. Let's get this guy out of here. We don't want to face him. Let's face someone else. So, there's no way of truly knowing. Like, I can't say definitively, yes, the irregular schedule impacted him, or no, it definitely didn't. I don't know. What I do know is he's a guy who's got a lot of mileage, and not what you'd call a young pitcher. So maybe that's a part of it. I really just don't know, but it does stink because I thought this guy had a chance to have a really special bounce back year. Question from John. Do you think the Rangers' offensive struggles are a result of the new park? It's an interesting question because I think that's multi-layered. First of all, I think their struggles are in part because they're not taking advantage of some hittable pitches. Their chase rate actually isn't horrible by any means. It's top half of the league, like in terms of from a positive standpoint. It's just now a matter of doing damage on quality pitches to hit. I think that, could they be psyching themselves out with the park? It's possible. I'm not going to sit here and say it doesn't have any impact. I'm sure it might. But I think it's a combination. I think it's like anything. I think the park is playing a role. I think just not hitting well is also playing a role. Like in fairness, on Sunday, it's not like the Rangers were scorching the ball all over the place. They could be playing in a Little League field and they weren't hitting well. You know what I mean? So I think the park has something to do with it. I do worry, and you can't quantify it. How much is this with the new park and the fact that we're talking so much about it being a pitcher's park? I'm not sure. I don't think the park is without any, I don't know if blame's the right word, but blame in the struggles. But I definitely don't think that it's fair to totally deflect the blame from just player performance and direct it solely to the park. Hey, I want to thank you guys. We're going to do this for, until 7 o'clock. Thanks so much for doing this. I'm just starting up the YouTube Live. Maybe you guys remember the Periscope. I'll still do some Periscope after the post-game show on the walk to the car. So I'd love for you to join then. But I think pregame, we're going to do a lot of YouTube Live. And I'd really appreciate if you would just share this with your friends and get more and more people on here. We're already building the audience a little bit. I'd love to continue to build the audience, continue to get different perspectives, different questions, different discussion points. So I appreciate you guys for hanging out, you guys and gals, and please feel free to share with friends and family. All right. Sexy Beast, why was Leote sent down? Interesting move because it's not something you would have seen in a 162-game season, 3 games in. But it's a matter of the urgency. They wanted more firepower off the bench. Whether it's the ability to pinch hit for a catcher, if Ronald Guzman's starting and they have a lefty who comes in late in the game, they wanted more firepower. They clearly, don't believe Leote is ready to bring that element. So they brought up Adolis Garcia just to be a little more prepared offensively on the bench. And Leote's got to be down 10 days, but it's possible he comes up at some point. So, Aaron, that's a good question. The ground rules, if the ball hits the roof. So if it's in play, if the ball hits the roof, as to what they're able to determine fair territory, it's in play. So if you catch it, then it's an out. If it drops in fair territory, so if it hits in fair territory and drops in fair territory, then it's a fair ball. It's a live ball. If it hits in fair territory and drops in foul territory, it's a foul ball. If it hits in foul territory, it's a foul ball no matter what. You can catch it, but it's a foul ball. If it hits in foul territory and lands fair, for instance, it's a foul ball. I'll give you guys another look of the field. The Diamondbacks currently taking batting practice. Akash, and if I'm not pronouncing your name, Akash, pronouncing it right, I apologize. So the question about, am I worried about the season being potentially suspended or canceled? Absolutely. That fear hasn't escaped me in full, and so obviously what's going on with the Marlins hasn't made that fear any less. It's, I guess this could go one of two ways. This could be a sign of what's to come, or it could be a wake-up call that Major League Baseball needs and benefits from. Obviously, you hate for them to benefit off of people getting COVID, but maybe it's a wake-up call that's going to help inform them of how to act the rest of the year. I don't know, but I definitely am concerned for sure. Logan, I said at the beginning of the year, 31-29. It seems like a good number, so I'll stick with my my preseason over-under. Akash, all right, I like it. I like that I said it correctly. Just a few things, guys, as we wait for more questions. And again, feel free to throw some questions my way. Kyle Gibson making his first start. He's a guy when he's going best, he gets ground balls. He's got a really good slider to get some swing and miss. Also helps generate ground balls. So it'll be exciting to see him. First time. Merrill Kelly starting for the Diamondbacks. He was a rookie last year, an older rookie because he was in Asia and had some success there. But he's a guy who shouldn't be an imposing force by any means. One thing to watch for, 4-game series, the Padres stole 7 bases. I think that's in part of what their aggressive style suggests will be a part of their game, the Padres that is, but they're also taking advantage of Diamondbacks catchers who don't really throw the ball particularly well, whether, no matter who it is, whether it's Carson Kelly behind the plate or, perhaps, a guy like Stephen Votes behind the plate. These are not guys who throw and catch particularly well. How many Astros get pegged tonight? I don't even know. Who are the Astros playing tonight? So let's take a look. Are they playing the Dodgers? Oh, yeah. Wouldn't be surprised if they hit the over on that one, whatever it might be. Fire in, fire out. Do I feel good about Gibson? I do. I'm generally an optimistic person, and maybe it's just my excitement to see him pitch in a Rangers uniform, but I am excited about Gibson. I think he's going to provide a solid presence now in the middle of the rotation. Well, Kevin, I think that, whether this past week can happen or not, I do think that's going to be a part of it. The problem is when you're not getting base runners, they become even more valuable, and, you probably don't feel the same level of comfort in doing so. I mean, you got to get the right guys on. You got to have the right guys at the plate. But I do think that the running game is going to be a part of, what the Rangers' formula is to score, just because they don't have as many of these big bop home run hitter types. Robert wants to know, is there a real big concern right now that the Rangers aren't swinging the bats very well? Absolutely, Robert. I think, at any point in the season, if someone is not doing, or like one part of the team isn't functioning well, even for a short stretch of games, it's concerning. I mean, think of it this way. The Rangers had 3 games in which their offense struggled. That's basically like an 8 to 9 game stretch in the season where they're not scoring. I mean, in terms of the impact on the standings. First Ranger to hit a grand slam, Robinson Trinos. First home run today, I'm going to go with Rugi. He's batting third. His at-bats actually really haven't been that poor. I know that everyone always looks for the first reason to rip Rugi, that they can find, and I get that. He's built, he's built his bed for that, but I do think his at-bats have actually been somewhat encouraging, even without all the results, some hard hit balls. One thing, as far as that question, for whatever reason, there's certain guys who they always hit well against certain teams, and there's really, scientifically, unless you want to, mentally characterize it, because maybe they just feel good when they play this team knowing that they've had success, and I don't know. But Todd Frazier had a lot of success against the Diamondbacks last year. 4 home runs in 6 games, 10 RBIs, hit over 500. So, I don't know, maybe he's a guy to get going. One thing to note, the Rangers lineup is different. Danny Santana's batting second. You've got Rougned Odor hitting third. And one reason why they want to get Danny going, typically, and this is just a guess, typically when you want to get someone going, you might move them down to alleviate pressure. But in Danny's case, they might want to keep him in a leverage spot just to reinforce that confidence. Everyone's wired differently, and this is where knowing your players is important. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's a part of it. Elvis dropping back. Willie's hitting 6. I think they want to see Willie get it. I saw a question there from David. When does Willie move up? I think they'd like Willie to get going before they move him up. And also I think one thing that maybe works against him that Nick Solak has in his favor is the speed part of it. You want someone who can score from first on a double with some of your bigger hitters. I think Willie ultimately settles in the 3-hole. But I think they also want to give him time to get going because it's not like he had the greatest build up and obviously coming off the hit by pitch. I think they want to make sure that he's really good to go. Better defender, probably Chu. Chu, and I give him the benefit of the doubt because he's got the better arm. He's got a strong arm. He's got an accurate arm. So I'd say that Chu's better, but because of his body and his age, you probably want Willie there more consistently. All right, that's going to do it. Hey, we'll do another game preview and Q&A tomorrow. We'll try to consistently do these on YouTube Live, as I mentioned. Would really appreciate it if you would share this with friends, whomever you think might be interested. Back tomorrow. Let's hopefully get a Rangers win tonight, and we'll be talking about a 2-2 ball club tomorrow. Thanks so much, guys and gals. Have a great night. Go Rangers.